just like always, this series continues to impress. For writers, it's always a fine line between pacing too fast or too slow, keeping readers engaged while only revealing things in small pieces. And, being able to keep that story compelling throughout, it's a big deal. Even for issues like this, where there's not tons of action, but the story moves forward, right? So Jonathan Hickman does this and more. And I'll get to my favorite aspects of this writing and kind of give a bit of my analysis as well. That's what I try to do in my videos. I don't just do comic book reviews, but I talk about what I loved about the writing, what made it compelling. First, of course, this creative team is absolutely fantastic. They just continue to capture the brilliant style, bringing to life this vision of the X-Men, the beauty of Krakoa. R.B. Silva's art, it really captures the expressive characterization and what feels like the thoughts, the feelings of these characters. Xavier, Emma, Silvercloud, Forge, a bit of a spoiler, yes. Forge has finally come up in this comic. And the colors, of course, by Marte Gracia complete this masterpiece, bringing to life the lights in this beautiful island that all of mankind is coming to call home. And just like usual, you can rest assured that there will be spoilers moving forward, so I want to get that out of the way first. As with every one of these books, I strongly urge you to read them first and then jump into this review afterward. Because, spoilers, all of this. So, this intro page here, this quote from Professor Xavier, this is a great way to summarize my love for the writing style that's being brought to this series. They will think we are doing one thing, but the truth is, we are doing something altogether different. Professor X. Now that is what makes a compelling series. Other elements too, of course, other things about writing. But we continue to see this manifest, with exciting twists and turns, like in last week's issue. And this week, we get to read about kind of the backstory as to how all of this begins to manifest, this immortality machine that has been set in motion by, the hidden powers of the Five, including, of course, Xavier and the primary function of this new Cerebro that's been brought online. And here, year one, this opening scene, we see Xavier again contracting Forge, just like he did when Forge set up all of the security for the mansion, only this time to use Shi'ar technology to create that perfect vessel of Cerebro to store the consciousness of every mutant. And not only that, but to be able to resurrect every mutant from the massacres previously. Again, I'd like to point out the incredible art here. This is absolutely gorgeous. And it's not just beautiful, but the art itself is able to capture the expressions of Xavier and Silvercloud, and it really says it all, their faces. This is the kind of fantastic communication that writers need to have with their artists, with their whole creative team. Being able to express the way that they tell their artists, to show the reader. It's up to the writer to be able to communicate that. And it's essential for that depth of character. Reading between the lines, because again, it's not just words for pictures. Like the title of Brian Michael Bendis's book, when he wrote that book about instructing people how to write comics. It's more than that. It's pictures for words. And that's a big deal because the pictures are what moves us in depth. Without the pictures, the words would be meaningless. So, again, the characterization here, I'm going off on a tangent, but, they're plotting together. It feels devious, It looks devious. The looks on their faces, their expressions, the emotion. And this is what I love about it. depending on your own kind of perspective, this devious expression on both of their faces, this could absolutely be a somewhat sly deviousness, or this could be sinister. And I saw it as sinister, to be honest with you, and pun intended a bit, but you know, that's the kind of stuff that I love when artists are able to bring that out. But of course, like I said, a lot of it comes from the writer as well. A lot of it comes from giving your creative team the ability to do what they want, also to interpret things their way as well. So I love how many different individuals, back to what I was just talking about, how many different individuals can look at this series and see it from completely different perspectives. Being able to approach social issues like this as a writer, without inserting one's own opinion as truth or as fact, it's the mark of a great writer. A while back, Jonathan Hickman, he asked on social media what it was that made a great X-Men creator, and he worded it like this. He said, "Some say the key to being a great X-Men creator is an ability to unite all the warring fan factions into a singular monolithic readership." And then he posted a poll. There was agree, disagree, let them fight, and why are they wearing that? And I responded, well, first of all, I said, let them fight. And then I responded, the only key, in my opinion, is to write exceptionally well. People will argue, but your writing is on point. And I'll just add to that something I often say as well. Allowing readers to make up their own minds about these social issues, it's essential for good storytelling. So, pushing forward on to year 10, we see a meeting between Xavier and Eric and Emma. And again, look, her great characterization, it's shown in her face as well as in her words. This creative team, again, they capture Emma's personality so well. And this is the Emma Frost that I've come to love so much. Regardless of her air of evil, quote unquote, or so to speak, they lay out the plans to create the nation state of Krakoa to Emma, and like always, boy does she make a great point. Let's put all mutants on an island again, gather them together in one place, put a giant target on it, and as she points to Eric, she says, "You should know better." And, about their future plans regarding the drugs, the nation, the economy, she says, "Aren't the two of you getting a little ahead of yourself?" Eric explains that in 1 year, the mutant population, based upon their plans, could increase as high as 2 million. And Eric replies, "We are not ahead of ourselves, Miss Frost. We are woefully behind." Yes, and that's a moment for the words and how it comes out. It's powerful. So together, they convince Emma to join them, and we learn another disturbing little thing that many of the readers were guessing would be the next step there. The X-Men are going into business with the Hellfire Club, using them as a way to distribute their drugs to different countries. They literally go as far as to sign a 50-year business contract with one disturbing catch. They'll be bringing in Sebastian Shaw back to the Hellfire Club, and likely, it seems like they may even be giving him a seat on the Council of 12 that they are starting, their very first government of Krakoa. And look, as if siding with Sinister and Apocalypse wasn't disturbing enough, Sebastian Shaw, in my opinion, is one of the most evil beings in the entire Marvel Universe. If you don't know his history, trust me on this, he has done some really terrible stuff to one of my most beloved characters. And so, Sebastian Shaw, apparently he will be the Black King, the one responsible to infiltrate countries that are rejecting the sovereignty of Krakoa, and they'll be going in to extract the mutants that have been stuck there. And all of this whole scene, it's really a prelude to them setting up, like I said, the forming of this Council of 12. And just like with a lot of other information before it, a lot of the details are redacted, right? Again, just like Moira, leaving out Moira's 6th lifetime in that graph, some of these same extra white space pages, those details, again, it'll be a lot of fun to watch this information kind of come out in the storytelling as it goes, and I know it'll be a slow process. Again, that's great storytelling for you. And look, I love this next portion. These next 2 pages, they tell very well that mood that's been set here on Krakoa, and it's truly a summarizing, just like it says here, a summary. Mutants of Earth, we're building something. All of you, all our brothers, all our sisters, all. Now is the time to set aside our differences and realize we are one people. So I'm extending to you an invitation. Join us, for you have a place here. It is a place of refuge, of sanctuary. It is your home, and we will be waiting for you here on Krakoa. And from the depths, Namor responds to Xavier, telling him that it's kind of him to ask. But he goes on to call out Xavier on what he believes to be the quote-unquote real reason for the invitation, for the establishment of a mutant nation. You've realized they'll never accept or love you because they envy your superiority. Namor says, it's good that you finally figured this out, but do I strike you as someone who's just now realized how much better I am than everyone else? And do you actually think that I believe you feel that way too? Go away, little man, and don't come back until you really mean it. Damn, what a great scene. I really love the way I feel when I'm reading this. And, that's the real kicker for me. And in most things that I really enjoy deeply, in most movies, pieces of literature, hell, even poetry, it's usually because I feel something. And the same goes for comic books, of course. And while that certainly is the case for the majority of books, there are, of course, a lot of other important qualities to good writing. This series is contemplative and it's intense. It's shocking. It's bold, right? This is taking the X-Men characters to a completely different direction that, this could possibly piss off some of the fan base, because it's really uncomfortable, It's very different and uncomfortable. And, this last scene, it touches on that idea, the notion that, yes, some individuals do believe that they have a metaphorical or a moral superiority to their peers. And how uncomfortable should you feel about that? Now, that's a very good question, and it's an important question. And the answer is, you feel how you do. The writer here, he doesn't try to tell you the right or wrong answer or the right or wrong way to feel about his writing. Again, like I mentioned so often, great storytelling can talk about anything, whether it's controversial or even fun and trivial. But when a piece of literature begins to preach to you, when it preaches you into a corner about your own values, that is where we have a serious problem. And that's where I just simply put it down. I'll set it down and I won't come back. And yeah, I'm talking about Tom Taylor. So look, I really love the way so many of the classic X-Men books are written. They tell a story about you, about me, about anyone who's felt excluded and cast out from society, And this story and series, it continues with the same great ideas, and it builds on them with a really powerful depth to the characters, to the story, Again, look, these books, they carry my very strongest recommendation, and readers unanimously are agreeing Whereas the series pushes forward, every single week, sales continue to rise with every single issue. And that's not something that happens in this day and age in comics. That's a big deal for our current climate. It's positive, and it's made me very excited to see what's to come in the Dawn of X. Again, another big spoiler at this point. Everything's spoilers, of course, but this book ends on a very dark note, giving us the impression, not just the impression, but the fact that 1,000 years in the future, every bit of organic life on planet Earth is destroyed by the Phalanx. Again, leaving me with an intense emotion. I had a feeling of dread, just like all of the Terminator movies, honestly. And of course, carrying with it that hope that this isn't the end, that this isn't Moira's last life, that all of this can be fixed, that she'll have an 11th life, that it can be changed, that the Sentinel War won't bring us to this end that we're witnessing here. Again, I love perspectives like this, that, the dawn of the singularity could cause this destruction of organic life and just wipe out all of mankind. But I actually have a deeper hope for what the development of AI can bring. One of my favorite writers, like I mentioned before, is Ray Kurzweil, and he talks about how he believes that the singularity will happen in the next 7 to 10 years. In fact, in his book, The Age of Spiritual Machines, he says, the year is 2029, and the machines will convince us that they are conscious, that they have their own agenda worthy of our respect. They'll embody human qualities, they'll claim to be human, and we'll believe them. Again, a lot of people would look at that and be very disturbed. Again, I have a more hopeful attitude that, machines will actually develop to the point to where we'll be able to benefit from them. Extending our lives thousands of years into the future, I think, is a really worthy cause. And so why not, Again, it's really the feelings of a story that drive most readers, in my opinion. We all like surprises, and we really like those unexpected turns and twists that you get with this series as well. For a good example, I used this on one of my writing videos recently, that moment at the end of Empire Strikes Back when you find out that Darth Vader is Luke's father. And, that's a big twist. It's a good example of a big surprise. But just like so many moments in this run of the X-Men and Hickman's run, it doesn't just surprise us. But for me, that moment was a feeling. It was an intense stirring that happened inside of me that kept me engaged. It's the feeling that pushed me to watch the next movie. It's the feeling I get from reading these books, not only reminding me of Claremont's classic X-Men run, but it's the feeling that I have that keeps me reading. And it's just like Robert McKee says in his book Story, when talented writers write well, they are moved by a desire to touch their audience. Look, big applause to this series in every way. I talk about comics, but also I talk about how writing applies to these stories, and I hope you join me and hear some of my perspectives and subscribe to my channel. Hit like, tell me what you think of my video, whether it's good or bad. I love to hear what everyone has to say. This series is really moving me, and I hope it has you as well. Just remember that you are the gateway into comics.